Good
Hey,
morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Clarkson here. And we've got another Scott on the show today, which is great. Buddy of mine, Scott Bauer, who is the host of the InvestThis podcast and also the owner of Southwest Property Buyers, who does a tremendous job. This cat out here is closed on over $20,000 not $20,000, $20 million in transactions. I didn't mean to leave a few zeros off there.
that's okay.
And just does an amazing job out there, not only as an investor with investors, but also as a show host for this podcast. I was so honored to be a guest on InvestThis and getting a lot of great feedback from that. And so I'm honored to return the favor and have Scott on the Note Closer Show podcast. What's going on, my brother with another mother?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on here today. Just starting out 2019. It's starting off strong. Actually, right now, I'm in a brand new office. We just moved in today. So kind of everything's a little bit of a mess. I won't show you the other side of the office, but really excited to get things going for this year.
That's good stuff. So why don't you share with people a little bit of your journey, how you got into real estate and kind of your journey along to where you're at today, Scott?
Absolutely. So really, I started back in 2000. Let's see, I moved to Arizona in 2011, late 2011, very beginning of 2012, actually January. So been here now, what is that, 8 years, 7 years, 8 years. So it's been a minute. I moved here with right after college, moved out to Arizona. I'm originally from Iowa, went to the University of Iowa, got 3 degrees in 4.5 years, which was
Whoa, hang on a second. Wow. That's crazy. What are the 3 degrees in? All right.
Business communications, entrepreneurial management, and health promotion with an emphasis in nutrition,
okay,
which is a little bit different. So 3 different colleges actually, but just ended up being that way. Was an entrepreneur from a young age, started a car detailing company back when I was just a junior in high school, believe it or not. So, entrepreneurship has always been my thing. But after I graduated from college, while I was in college, I guess I met my first mentor. He happened to be the president of a large logistics company based out of Iowa called Jacobson Logistics. And when I was in college, I interned with them every year. And when I graduated, he said, "Where do you want to go in the country? We'll make a job anywhere you want to go." So kind of had narrowed it down to 3 different options: Atlanta, Georgia, Phoenix, Arizona, or Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Naturally, Phoenix, Arizona was the winner of the 3. And ended up here. So was doing that for about a year or so, worked for that company before I got tired of working for the man, working for somebody else, and went in and got my real estate license, started there, was a realtor for a little bit, and gradually progressed. So we'll go there. We'll stop there for a minute.
So that's a great thing, because in your bio you talk about how you became a realtor. It really wasn't your cup of tea, then, I take it, huh? Because Phoenix and Arizona, when you moved there over the last 8 years, that area has gone through a tremendous amount of change on the real estate side. I can remember buying, $300,000 properties I was picking up for 30 grand back in the day, and how it's really, I make the joke that if that Vegas and Phoenix, if California sneezes, they catch a cold. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and that's very, very true. Matter of fact, Phoenix is one of those areas that is very boom or bust. So when I moved here 2012, that was really the beginning of when things started to uptick. I didn't have the pleasure of being here and knowing what I know now back in 08, 9, 10, 11, when you could buy these things at literally cents on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been able to see the increase in value, the massive, Phoenix has changed tremendously since I've been here. So it's been very cool to see it. It's been very cool to be part of it. Now we're just trying to see, where is it going to go? Because everything that's happened in the past is done and over with. You no longer can control that. We can only try to control what's in the future. So really trying to nail down, where we're at, making sure we're making safe investments today that aren't going to put us in a hole if something was to correct in the market.
Right. And you bought a lot of single family out that neck of the woods, $20 million. And then you're transitioning into some larger commercial stuff, multifamily,
right?
Larger in commercial stuff. What would you say has been the biggest learning curve for you going from the residential side to the commercial side, Scott?
I'm still very heavily in the residential side. I think the commercial side is it can be a little bit intimidating. I think that's the word I want to use, because the numbers are larger. Now, the difference is that it's actually easier to qualify for loans in commercial buildings. It's easier to make these properties cash flow. And of course, if there's bigger numbers on the purchase, there's bigger numbers on the cash flow. There's bigger numbers on the sale or the disposition of the asset later, after some time. So it's just wrapping your head, I think, around that difference. Instead of buying $200,000 or $300,000 houses, now you're buying $2 or $3 million properties, and so it's just a little bit different. And how you construct it too, the partners involved, the people involved. I know on the multifamily side, it's a team sport. It's a team sport. You have to have a good, solid team in place. You have to have, the right people on your team to make sure that everything goes successfully.
So what was funny, Scott, and I was having you on this afternoon. And so I talked a little bit in my morning podcast episode, the episode I recorded this morning, about the fear factor, about how a lot of people, they go from the residential side and they get bombarded, they get these commercial deals and they get scared, and you literally, we didn't talk that much about this episode before coming on. So it's funny. I guarantee people are like, oh my God, he's talking about me with the fear factor. But it's how it is easier with commercial because you do have the teams. You don't have to be the expert. You go out and find the experts in their specific niche on the commercial side, whether it's multifamily, self-storage, mixed use, whatever it is.
Right.
These are loans, and the bank really actually likes it better when you're not a one-man band and have to help you out with that, right, Scott?
Right. That's absolutely true. And it takes a lot of the pressure off as well. Think about it. You're going to buy a $30 million property and you have this whole thing you think you got to dig down yourself and do it all yourself. Man, that's scary. I can tell you that's not something I really I'd like to do. So the team's really important. That's for sure.
Now, you are still very heavily active there, buying a lot of properties. What's probably one of the biggest mistakes you see new investors making out there, Scott?
Right now in the market cycle, they're paying too much money for it. They're not buying on cash flow. Some people were very spoiled. They've only seen an appreciating market, which I guess you could say I have as well. If you bought something in 2012 and you didn't do a thing to it, you're making money if you sell it today, flat out, right? Now that's not the case. Rents have dramatically increased over the last 5, 6, 7 years, I guess. Things have changed a lot in that market or in that part of the cycle. We've been in the uptick for a long time. So you can't buy properties expecting the same thing to happen. You only have to buy on cash flow. And really, you got to be conservative on your numbers. The downfall here is that maybe you won't get as many deals accepted. You won't get as many offers accepted because there's a lot of dumb people in the market that are willing to overpay, right? That's just something that we have to live with.
But it's so true. You have to expect to be careful with your numbers, know your numbers. And then also you said something really important. I think a lot of people missed out on is you have to expect maybe a longer term deal. It's not gonna be the quick flip and turn, a quick wholesale deal. You got to expect, hey, if you're going to buy it, it's all about cash flow. That's going to tide you over a little bit. You got to keep that. And I say that specifically because when you look at rentals, with what we do in the note business, taking a property back and keep it as a rental is our least favorite exit strategy.
Okay? I bet.
We'd rather get it reperforming, and in the worst case, take the property back, via foreclosure and sell it off if we have to. If we take it back and have to rent it out, that's not that's the least thing that we want to do. But you still have to expect that. You got to be prepared for that. And I think so many people out there, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if you think differently, Scott, about that, they get so busy watching HGTV or Flip This House or something like this, seeing these made up, really fictional shows, as I like to say these days, right? And think they can go out and be a weekend warrior and buy a property and make some money on it. You've got to know your numbers. You've got to know the market, got to know what's going on. And it's not the same thing as reruns were from 2, 3, 4 years ago, right?
That's absolutely the truth. And really, that's kind of like why I don't watch, well, a little bit different, but I don't watch the news, right? Because it's fake. It's not real, right? And the same thing goes with HGTV or any of these other shows, Flip This House or whatever it might be. They're not real. They're there to make, to get listener or get viewers to watch it. And, they are addicting. I've been in that spot where I watch it and you're like, wow, man, that's a good show, but you can't expect that to be the reality of it.
Yeah. Well, because that's how I got into real estate. My ex-wife loved watching that, wanted to pick up paint colors and carpet. And I grew up in the hardware store. Oh, I can fix anything. Yeah. That's not the case, right?
No, it's really not. And, but unfortunately, we're seeing an influx. You can tell where we're at in the market cycle because there's a lot of events going on, a lot of gurus out there that are teaching you how to do it. And therefore, we're also seeing sellers that are getting a lot more marketing from a lot of people that have no clue what they're doing. Mm-hmm. That puts more competition for, the investors out there that are trying to, either do direct mail marketing or they're being targeted on Google or whatever it might be. There's other competition out there. But if you're smart with what you're doing and you don't over leverage yourself, you don't buy things looking for an appreciation in order to make your money, you'll probably be okay. And, one of my coaches challenged me this year. He said, this is the year I want you to say no. So I want you to say no as more often, because I'm a yes man. I mean, that's just who I am as a person. I love to say yes. Every opportunity out there, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Sounds great. Well, that's not always the case. That's not always a great deal. And so focusing on how do you say no more often and really only put your chips on what is going to be a win.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good thing there. 2019, the year of no.
The year of no, right. Right.
But you raise a really good point there, Scott. I only say it because I run into that too as well. I think we as entrepreneurs, we look, especially when we're creative, we look at, we can make it work. We can find a way to make it work. And eventually you run a round of round pegs for square holes that we're good at squeezing into those, right? And so when the market is over congested with gurus, educators, everybody wants to be an educator these days, right? You got to realize something's wrong. You got to kind of pull your cards or your chips back from the table, focus on the hands that are winning, maybe share a little less, but be more conservative in what you're making offers on and go from there. I know that we've done that quite a bit over the last 18 months, especially in the debt space, been a little bit more conservative on what we're buying, conservative this day. We're kind of bringing things back in. I'm speaking less out there because I just I don't need to go to a room with a bunch of newbies that really are just going to run to the back of the room. That's not what I got into real estate for, right?
Right. And, another indication of where we're at in the market cycle is that everybody's willing to lend you money. There's a reason for that. I got people that reach out to me almost daily, wanting to fund this or they'll, and I'm just like, I don't want that, because that is an indication to me that there's too much money in the market, that things are overpriced, and, people are trying to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about you're kind of transitioning, still doing Southwest Home Buyers, founder. Let's talk a little about what Southwest Home Buyers is.
So really, we went from HBSB Holdings, which is you'll see right here, actually.
Very nice logo. Very nice.
Very nice. Thank you. That is the umbrella company for all of my other companies. I have a couple other ones as well. And what that stood for was Homes by Scott Bauer. Well, that started in 2014, and now we're kind of separating out. When people look at this, they think of, wow, this is a big company, or who is this, or HSBC Bank, or whatever it is, right? I don't want that. I want to have a better assimilation of, hey, we're there to buy your house. That's what our guys are out there doing. So that's what Southwest Home Buyers comes in. Now it's just an umbrella, or it's a piece under the umbrella of HBSB Holdings. But really what it is we're going out there, we're finding distressed assets. We're either selling them to other investors on a wholesale basis, taking them down, remodeling them ourselves and flipping them, or putting them back on the market on a wholesale basis, right? Pretty simple. We're just trying to capitalize on where we're at in the market cycle.
That's a good thing. It's a really good thing. And now you're moving also in the multifamily space. I see our friend Dan Hanford it looks like he clicked on to watch this on the Facebook Live. What's going on, Dan?
What's up, Dan?
You are also speaking at the Multifamily Investor Summit, correct?
Yep, I was going to. There might be a little bit of a conflict. We're looking at might be a conflict of something that I actually committed to a while ago. So I have my assistant working on that right now. But yeah, that's the plan as of today. So
he just sent me a text message. He goes, I love it. Two of my speakers are on the show.
So anyways, yeah, I mean, and as we move into the multifamily space, really it goes back to the numbers. I mean, I'm an owner in a 120 unit apartment complex in Kentucky right now. It's a phenomenal deal. It's been a big learning curve for me to really see it and understand it. I could tell you that it's much more fun to be in that space. The transition can be a little bit challenging. How do you really shift from only buying single family to now jumping in full fledged into the multifamily investments, because they're also heated up. I know here in Phoenix, stuff is trading at a 4 cap, 3 cap, maybe even a high 2 cap in some scenarios. That's insane because that's not sustainable, right? But looking in other safer areas, like I said earlier in the call, I'm from Iowa. Iowa's a phenomenal investment opportunity. It's a phenomenal investment space for a lot of reasons. You're not seeing those super low caps there as often, at least from what I've seen so far. So we're starting to underwrite a couple of deals down there and try to just see if maybe that's it where I want to build some more opportunities.
Investing in the corn. No.
You know what? The corn is safe. The corn is what makes everything spin. That's what makes everything go, right? So it's a good place to be.
You buy it, the investors will come, Scott, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
So and I agree. You're seeing, I think a lot of people are so, especially Phoenix, California. I mean, people will slice their grandmother's throat for a 3 cap in LA,
Right.
And that's the thing Dan was talking about, we've talked about too, is, you don't have to go where everybody loves LA or the big markets like Dallas, Austin. I mean, Austin's silver priced here. It's crazy. So that's what we had to do years ago. We still do that where we're buying a lot in secondary markets because that's where you still see a lot of opportunity. You don't see quite as much competition. And when you go to the bigger deals, you're right. It's a lot more fun because you're dealing with a lot less pain in the asses, the pitas.
I was going to say that's about what you could call it. Now, so there's safe environments.
You're holding something back there, I can tell. Just let it spill, dude.
Well, I mean, in the single family space, you got so many idiots everywhere. Just clouding the space up, right? But when you get into these larger commercial deals, multifamily deals, you have more sophisticated people, not there wasting your time. It's a lot more fun. Now, I like to go. The reason I have a piece in Kentucky is because that's a safe market. Why is it a safe market? Well, not one, I guess, job sector is what runs that whole area. There's actually the 2 largest, technology and technology and healthcare, only make up 15% of their GDP of the area. So very safe. Iowa is the same way. You got a lot of diverse business, nothing that really, handles or holds a lot of the market share. And that's what you want. You want diversity that way, because then you have, you're not worried about one sector taking out your whole job force, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, TJ Cleaninger says, yes, indeed, when you mention too many idiots out there, for sure.
I guess you could say a part of it because I'm one of them, because I'm out there as well, right?
Well, but that's the thing. And just because you're moving into some bigger assets doesn't mean you're stepping away from the bread and butter. I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of people, when they get into real estate, they're like, well, I'm going to do residential. I want to do commercial because I like the bigger numbers. Well, we all know commercial deals take longer to close. So there's more to due diligence, stuff like that. And I've been a big believer. Hey, make your bread and butter with your residential deals, whether it's the fix and flip or the rentals or the turnkey stuff, or like with us with doing the note aspect, that you get your systems in, get that. That's what it's covering your bills. That's your day in, day out income. You hit home runs with the commercial deals. Those are the deals that you look at retiring. If you've got your capital sitting on the sidelines, because you should be using other people's money most of the time. You've got to tap into your own funds for down payments and things like that. Commercial deals is where you want to really spend the time with. Residential deals, trust me, do another marketing piece. You'll raise enough capital to get that stuff done, right?
Yeah, right. It's super easy. And, it's one of those things where I can't just let it go, because sometimes the deals happen so quickly. And to be I'm a busy guy. Like, I just like to go constantly. I like to do stuff. And if I'm only going to close 3 or 4 large commercial deals a year, that's not enough movement for me. I mean, it just isn't. So I would rather be burning and turning on the single family stuff, burning and turning that as much as I can, and at the same time working on these larger deals. And at the end of the day, we all win, right? I mean, I stay busy and I get into the other deals, and everybody wins.
Exactly. Amen to that. Now let's talk about the InvestThis podcast. You've been doing that for how long now?
It's been a year. So we got 50 episodes that have aired, or I think are airing shortly or soon. I think a total of 52 recorded. So, one a week for the last year. And it's been really good. I've got to meet individuals like yourself on the podcast. I actually got introduced to that 120 unit deal that I was telling you about from a guest on the podcast. The whole thing for me is giving out free content, Really, I want to bring people on like yourself that we can deliver information to people they can use in their business, to invest in their business and in their life, to keep it moving forward. Because I know when I was first starting, this was one of the big things I listened to all the time, was podcast after podcast after podcast. And you learn a lot. And so if I can give back that way, at this point, I'm not necessarily making a ton of money on the podcast. I think last year we made $3,500 from a monetary standpoint of just on the podcast, but I'm building relationships. I'm building this, this network of people that I wouldn't have otherwise got had I not had the podcast. So it's been very good.
I have to echo the same thing. It's a great way to give a lot of content. And you close that 120 deal in Kentucky, you're going to monetize a podcast right there.
That's
all
right.
It takes one person. And commendable sticking with it. You're in some rare air. I think it's like less than 10% of podcasters get to 50 episodes.
Yeah.
Which is great. You've hit that mark. You keep going a year. Hey man, same here. Just over a year now. It's been amazing. And honestly, the podcast community is pretty damn friendly too with advice, because I think we're all clamoring for listeners or not to build an audience, but it's not really stepping on anybody's toes and working together. A lot of times we can cross market and cross pollinate each other's shows and things like that. And that's a beautiful thing.
Well, I mean, it goes here. So if I ever wanted to learn about notes, I know who to go to, right? So if I say something pops up, I get an opportunity in front of me and says, oh, here it is. Unless I would have had that relationship with you, I wouldn't have somebody to go to, right? Or somebody else. I mean, it could be self-storage, or it could be other commercial deals. I just had somebody called right before this that has a 250 unit single family portfolio that they were reaching out to me about. So all of this stuff is a product of the podcast. It might not be monetary today, right here. Here's a check, but it will be in the future. And at the end of the day, it's how I give back. I mean, it's a good way to provide content for people.
Yeah, exactly. What's been your biggest surprise from podcast?
With the podcast?
Yeah.
With the podcast? Really just the relationships that I've been able to build. I didn't think that I'd be able to meet these types of people, been able to have some of them on the show, get a chance to speak with them. That's been the biggest surprise for me. The other thing too is I'll be in, at an event, or I'll be somewhere and people come up to me like, oh, I love your show, or, whatever like that. And it's rewarding because I know that they're getting the value out of it. That's why I'm doing it. And it keeps me, recording more and more episodes and having more and more people on.
Amen to that. So question for you, 2019, we were talking before we went on how it really feels like it's the first week. True.
Yep.
Last week was kind of shut down because of New Year's Day and stuff like that, and really a short week. But, do you have some big goals in 2019 for your real estate and then for the podcast? You get, written down. I know. Congratulations moving to the new office. I know you were really excited about that.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that needs to happen in order to grow. You have to just have some more space, which is always good and exciting. From a real estate standpoint, taking more of a transition is really the big focus. So, you know what? I know how the single family world works. I know how this whole business I've been able to build over those last 4.5 years, 5 years. I know how it all works. So now transition for me is really, really important. I've surrounded myself with the people that are going to allow me to get there. And that's probably the most important part. From a real estate standpoint, it's moving into bigger deals. It's focusing on larger targets and not being shy about it, telling everybody, reaching out to the people in my network to, get them on board with it as well. Because once again, it's a team sport. So if I can find some other players with people in my network, it's all a win.
That's awesome. And then any big goals for the InvestThis podcast as well?
I've been challenged by another one of my coaches on that as well. Is what is the goal of this? What is the point of having the podcast? And at this point, it's still just to give back. It's still just to build these relationships. There's nothing really massive about it. It's to get good quality guests on that I can build relationships with, and therefore also help other people get out there to invest the knowledge and information into their own life and business and keep them moving forward. That's the biggest goal for me right now. And right or wrong, that's what it is.
I'm going to throw a personal thing out there for you. Is there something you're looking for? Let's put it behind Note Nation out here, all our WCN crew people out there, as we're termed the Carsonites. Is there something you're looking for? Is there something you're needing help with in 2019?
We're always raising money, right? So we're always finding those new relationships with raising capital, and really finding opportunities. Because I'm here in Phoenix, that means that I'm not always in the best place to find the opportunities. There's opportunities everywhere. Like I said earlier in the call, it's a hot market here in Phoenix. So if there's deals or opportunities that people have where, they're looking for capital to be raised on, I'd love an opportunity to look at those deals. That would be first and foremost, probably, is to try to find the opportunities.
Cool. Good stuff. Well, we'll see if we can't put those out there for everybody out there. If you're looking at deals, things like that, you're in the Phoenix market outside of that, hey, Scott's always looking for deals. Same here. But I think unless you speak it, your goals never happen. You know what I mean?
Hey, that's true. That's definitely the truth. I would show you over here my whiteboard. It's white blank now just because I just moved to this office. But here in about an hour or so, I'm going to fill it back out with what was on it, which is my goals for this year. And that includes buying more apartments.
There you go. Good stuff. Well, hey, Scott, I want to say thank you so much for taking time on your busy schedule, especially on a moving day, to jump on here with everybody. Got a lot of great love on the Facebook live stream out there as well. What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
I would say send me an email. So if you send an email to, we'll just go to this one, support@hbsbholdings.com. That's going to be the easiest way to find us. Matter of fact, I think it changed over. So support@southwestpropertybuyers.com. I think it changed over. I just remembered that while I said that. So either one, send me a message. Let's talk. I'd love to connect with everybody out there that's watching this. Try to add as much value as I can and see how I could help out their operation or their deal or anything that they need. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. And then also, guys and gals, go out, check out the InvestThis podcast. It's on all the major podcasting platforms. Great show. I think episode 45 has some guy talking about notes. So who knows?
Yes. Please.
Yeah, definitely. Go out, check it out, and leave a review. You won't go wrong listening to InvestThis. So, Scott, once again, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on the No Clue Show. Look forward to your continued success, and we'll stay in touch. I got some things. Hang around. Don't go anywhere. I got a couple of things that maybe will help you out immediately with some of the things you're looking at. All right.
Awesome. Sounds great, man. Appreciate you having me. We'll talk to you real soon.
Anytime. All right, guys and gals, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the No Closer Show. Go out, make something happen. Don't be scared of your bigger deals. Like we talked about with the episode before this, don't let the fear factor in your decision not to pursue a deal. Check it out. Get with people out there. Bigger deals is sometimes easier to do because it's rarefied air, and keep doing that. And we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.
Thanks. Appreciate that, man.